Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar on the 2019 postal rate changes, hosted by Anchor Software, featuring our special guest speaker, Steve Phelps of the United States Postal Service. In today's webinar, we'll be going over the upcoming changes with the new postal rate changes in 2019. My name is Cindy Prado, and I will be co-hosting this webinar. If you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to add them to the chat window, and we'll do a question and answer at the end of the demo. So let's go ahead and get started. Before we go into the actual price changes, I want to tell you a little bit about Anchor Software. So Anchor Software was founded in 1998. This year, we're celebrating our 20th year anniversary. We provide software solutions for data quality, postal compliance, mail processing, and document design. We are actively engaged in shaping our industry through participation and leadership in MTAC, ID Alliance, AMI, PostCon, and other numerous PCCs. So now that I've told you about Anchor Software, let me tell you about our special guest speaker, Steve Phelps. Steve has been with the United Postal Service for 34 years in various roles and has been serving as the manager of pricing since February of 2016. In this role, he's responsible for the pricing of all market-dominant products and services, including first-class mail, marketing mail, periodicals, package services, extra services, and market dominant international. In his previous role, he served as manager, regulatory reporting and cost analysis, which was responsible for the Postal Service's revenue, volume, and cost reporting for management and regulatory reporting. Steve holds an MBA from Loyola University and a bachelor's degree in finance from the University of Baltimore. So now that I've told you about Steve, Steve is going to tell us more about the 2019 postal rate changes. So Steve, can you please go ahead and tell us about that and take it away?
Sure thing. Thanks, Cindy, for the great introduction, and thank you for having me on today's call. Let me go ahead and share my screen and get the slides started. As Cindy indicated, I'm going to talk about the Postal Service price change, a little bit of background, the market dominant prices, first class, marketing mail, periodicals, package services, and special services are restricted to changes in the Consumer Price Index, and our competitive products are not. That stems back from the 2006 Postal Accountability and Enhancement Act. I'm going to talk about promotions. I'll talk a little bit about each of the major pricing categories in each of the classes, and then talk a little bit about our competitive pricing. So how this works is we seek approval to file prices with our Board of Governors, like our Board of Directors. We had new governors appointed in late August. We didn't have governors for approximately 1.5 to 2 years prior to that. Usually we would give the industry more guidance on changes, structural changes, or areas of emphasis, or areas of increased incentives in the price change. Because of the late arrival of governors, we weren't able to do that, unfortunately, in this case. But we did present them with a set of prices, and there was some back and forth, and they approved our prices on October 4th. Both market dominant and competitive. We filed those prices with the Postal Regulatory Commission on the 10th. For competitive pricing, the PRC generally gives us an opinion or a ruling on the prices within 30 days. And the reason I use the word generally is the 30-day time frame would have expired last Friday. We did not receive a decision on the competitive prices. We expect to hear something either today or in the next couple days. For the market dominant prices here at the top of the slide, the PRC has committed to 34 days, which is coincidentally today. I have checked at their website and they have not released the prices. Um, we usually see something later in the day. So we are hopeful that we receive a positive ruling later today. That gives 75 days prior to implementation for market dominant prices, and then 79 days, or in this case, it'll be 75 days as well for competitive if we get a decision today. And the price change is effective January 27th, 2019. As I mentioned earlier, the market dominant prices are based on changes in the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. And what this table shows is we had about 2.5% of pricing authority when we filed in October, and that was using the August CPI. We had 12 months of accumulated CPI from last August when we filed a price change the early October last year as well. So we have 12 months of accumulated CPI, and most of the classes, it's all about a 2.5% increase, and I'll go over that as we go through each slide. The mailing promotions, because of the lack of a governor, we were not able to offer promotions in 2018. This promotional schedule, we worked with a lot of our mailing promotions customers to develop a set of promotions for this year. Because of the compressed time schedule with the approval of our governors, some of the newer things are going to be offered in future promotions. And these promotions closely align, the promotions that were approved for 19 were closely aligned to what was offered in 2017 with two exceptions. The earned value, you can see in first class mail, the duration of the promotion was reduced to 3 months, and the incentive was reduced from 5 cents to 3 cents. In addition, a threshold was established, whereas mailers that participate in the promotion either need to grow their revenue or be within 95% of last year's revenue in order to participate. Excuse me. The other change is related to informed delivery. Informed delivery in 2017 was a part of the emerging and advanced technology promotion. For this year, it's being broken out into a separate promotion. I'm moving on to first class. The increase was for first class mail is 2.5%. I think the big headline here is the single piece price moved from 50 to 55 cents, a 10% increase. Extra ounces, in order to do that under a CPI cap, we reduced some prices. So we reduced the extra ounce price from 21 cents per extra ounce to 15 cents. The meter price did go up from 47 to 50 cents, and then we reduced commercial flats. You take into account both the piece and the pound part of it. Most commercial flats are over 1 ounce. It also had an 11% reduction. Pre-sort letters and cards saw a modest increase of 1%, and outbound international we did not increase that. The prices remained the same. We had a significant increase in 2015, and there's been a significant negative trend here, so we're trying to maintain price to hopefully help to stabilize some of the volume. There was also no change to the price, as I mentioned, of first class mail outbound or to single piece cards. They were 35 cents. They remain 35. All of our consumer facing prices, the stamp price, the extra ounce price, the card price, and the single piece flat price are all divisible by a nickel. Moving on, I talked about most of this. You can see the single piece, the extra ounce, the meter, Single piece flats, which I did not mention, traditionally, that has been 2 times the price of a single piece stamp. If that were the case here, it'd be $1.10. To keep that divisible by a nickel, it would have been even then. And to free up some cap space, we've kept that at $1. And then here's the 0 increase in card price. The commercial prices, more modest increases. As you can see, the letters, a little bit of higher increase for 5-digit automation letters, but still well below the CPI. And then the others, the mixed ADC and the ADC, right around 1%. The flats prices, the piece rated flats, you can see the increases at 2, 2.5, and 3.1. But when you add in the reduction in the extra ounces, the average price change here is a negative 11%. The other thing about first class is the full service IMB discount remains at 0.3 of a cent. Moving on from first class to marketing mail. Overall marketing mail got a 2.5% increase. Letters right at letters and flats very close to that increase. One thing about flats gets a slightly higher than average increase as we take in more revenue than our costs for flats, so they're considered to be underwater. We are required by the Postal Regulatory Commission to give them 105% of our CPI, so that gets to 2.6%. Carrier out, letters, flats, and parcels. This is a category really dominated by catalogs. Understanding the value catalogs have in the mailbox, and they generate other types of mail, packages, and first-class letters. We gave them a lower than average increase of 0.7%. High density saturation letters got a higher than average increase at 3.8. Higher than average increase for high density saturation flats. I'll talk about those in the next few slides in a little more detail. Marketing mail parcels, which are also underwater, got a higher than average increase, and in EDDM retail, a 5.1% increase. That has seen lower than average increases the last 2 years, so we're giving that a little more price this year. The other change that's been of some interest is the full service IMB discount increases to 0.3 of a cent to be more consistent with what we're offering in first class. Coinciding with this increase in the incentive, we're also decreasing the incentive for barcoded pieces. So we're taking a corresponding reduction in the incentive for barcoding and adding it on the IMB as we're shifting more and more to continue to encourage IMB. A little more detail, these are the origin prices for marketing mail. Prices for originated mail, these typically have received a less than average increase, with the exception of EDDM retail, which I talked on the earlier slide. We tend to, the increases went more to the drop ship categories. Nonprofit prices. Nonprofit prices closely align to their commercial counterparts. There is some deviation, but they're pretty well aligned. And how we set nonprofit prices, by statute, the average revenue per piece for a nonprofit piece has to average across letters, flats, and parcels 60% of their commercial counterparts. So, so you will see, although they're lower, they're very, very closely aligned to their commercial counterparts, and they're 60% in total the average revenue per piece. Marketing mail automation letters. A couple things going on here. In the drop ship letters, you can see those in the saturation DNDC, DSCF, and the 5-digit DMDC and DSCF. The Postal Regulatory Commission has asked us to address the pass-through issues associated with that. What that means is for work sharing categories like this, where we customers get lower prices to reduce to drop ship the mail into the further into our network. We calculate the cost we avoid by mailers doing that. The Postal Regulatory Commission requires us to have the discount equal or be less than what the cost we avoided. In the case of drop ship letters, we're giving back higher discounts than costs were avoided. So the PRC has directed us to address that. That's why you're seeing higher than average increases in the 3.08 for 5-digit DNDC and the 5-digit DSCF at 3.64. You also see the same types of increases as the saturation. Also, higher than average increase for high density DSCF letters. We're shrinking the incentive for that as the Postal Service does not gain a cost advantage from HD, so we're closing that gap. Moving on to nonprofit letters, the prices here, although the percentages are different, the price changes closely align to what we saw in their commercial counterparts. Flats, some things here, we're trying to address some pass-throughs as well. Two things, when it comes to high density plus, and saturation, DSCF entered flats. We have a pass-through issue here we're trying to address as ordered by the PRC. We did address that in this case, which led to higher than average increases in those three categories, with saturation receiving the highest increase. We also were trying to incent pure carrier route pallets dropped at the DSCF and the DDU. These are pallets with carrier out bundles that can be dropped on our docks, cross-docked, and taken right to the SCF, or in this specific case, taking them to the DDU and reducing operational costs and freeing up machinery to work on other bundle sorting or packages. So we are increasing the incentive for pure carrier out pallets. Here, these are the piece and pound structure. These are heavier weighted flats. You can see the effect on an 8-ounce flat using both the piece and the pounds. Some of these prices mirror the flat counterparts with higher increases for high density plus, and saturation, and also increased incentives for pure carrier out pallets. Moving on to periodicals. Periodicals received a 2.5% increase. Outside county, which is where most of the periodicals volume is, received right at 2.5. Inside county, which are a lot of local small newspapers, received a lower than average increase. The top 100 publications will get between a 2 and a 3% increase, so right around average. Heavyweight mailers will also see postage increased by less than CPI. We did not increase the pound rate of periodicals. Nonprofit mailers will see increase from a lower than average increase of 1.3 to slightly above at 2.8. On average, smaller, lower circulation publications, less than 150,000 per issue, will see average increases due to their non-machinability, the heavier reliance on sacks, and lighter weight. These cost more to process, so we're give them a higher increase to try to recoup some of that cost. And then the ride-along prices changed by 0.2 of a cent, or 1.1%. For package services, these are market dominant products, parcels that have content restrictions, media library, got a higher than average increase. This is actually underwater products, so it received close to 3%. Bound printed matter flats, about an average increase, and then parcels received a lower than average increase. And this was, we're seeing more volume in this area, and we decided to give more price to media library mail. So that price has to come from somewhere. In this case, it came from EPM parcels. PO boxes, higher than average increase on PO boxes. A lot of the price went to higher increase on smaller, more highly used boxes. Lower increase to certified mail. Certified mail went up by a dime. We gave it a larger increase last price change, so we went a little lighter on price here. Return receipt, 3%. A large part of that increase is due to increases in electronic return receipt, which is we're seeing significant growth and is really the future of the product. And then the others, certificate of mailing, address correction service, and all others. There's about 60 categories within special services, so you can't go through them all, but what I've shown here are the major categories. Going to competitive products, overall increase of 7.4%. There's double-digit increases for the lightweight products. You can see that in the Parcel Select Lightweight and the first class package services. Priority mail went up by just under 6%, and Priority Mail Express about 4%. Parcel Select Lightweight, as I indicated, higher increases to the lightweight products. A couple things of note here. Retail ground is the same as priority mail for under 16 ounces. Our commercial base pricing went up by 3%, and our commercial plus pricing by 6%. And in order to participate in these are for priority mail customers. You need about $50,000 a year in revenue. Two other changes. First class package services, or FCPS, will include zone-based pricing. This was unzoned. We proposed zone-based pricing for this. And then dimensional weighting, or dim weighting, will apply for Priority Mail Express, and Package Select for pieces with greater than 1 cubic foot. Prior to this price change, Priority Mail zones 4 through 8 were the only product subject to dim. We've expanded that. And we've also changed the dim divisor from 194 to 166, which we're still in a more favorable position than our competition, at which their dim divisor is 139. That's FedEx and UPS. If you want more information about the price change, Postal Explorer. If you go into Postal Explorer, they actually, I believe, have the slides that I presented today. They also have the Notice 123 with all of the prices and all the detail. There's downloadable formats in Excel and CVS for the price files. You can also go see the Federal Register notices that were issued in conjunction with the price change, and the Domestic Mail Manual and International Mail Manual with the proposed changes. There's also a DMM advisory and any email updates. There's lots of really good information out there on Postal Explorer regarding the price change. The last slide is questions, and I believe questions were going to be taken via the chat box.
Hello, thanks, Steve. And that was really great information that you were given on the price rate increases. So at this time, what we're going to do is go over some of the questions that were posted in the chat window while the webinar was going on. And one of the questions that they had, and I believe, Steve, if you can help me out with this question, it is, will the first class pre-canceled stamps will be affected with a price increase?
A little bit about pre-canceled stamps. Pre-canceled stamps are available both for first class mail and marketing mail. They're bought and applied to either first class or marketing mail pieces, and they will still be used. How they work is you apply them to your pieces, take them into a bulk mail acceptance unit. If you owe postage, you provide a little more money and put it on the postage statement. After this, you don't have to go out and buy new pre-canceled stamps. You can use the same stamps, but based on the amount that's fixed on there, you may have to pay additional when you submit them to the BMU, and you would do that via postage statement. So you don't need to buy new stamps, although the stamps you have might require additional postage.
Okay, that was great answer. Thank you. Thank you. The next question is a good question also. Are the mail.dat updates based, are there going to be any mail.dat updates based on the new rate increases? And the answer to that is yes. 19.1-1 will be released with the new rate changes, and we hope to have that available, and the ones that are going to be affected are the, let me see, the first class package service parcel, and it will be required if you do that type of pre-sort to use 19-1 MailDat. And then the other pre-sort that we handle here also is the Postal Select dimensional weight pre-sort. So if you do either one of those pre-sorts here, that you will have to use the 19-1 MailDats. And let's see if there are any other questions. We'll give it a second. So while we're waiting to see if there's any questions, due to the overwhelming response in today's webinar, we're going to be providing a brief Max Presort OS software demonstration if anybody would like to stay and watch us go through it. So it looks like there are no other questions. So that being the case, let me go ahead and proceed with our Presort OS. So this is our Presort OS software. It's used to do any pre-sorts that customers would have. It will provide postal discounts based on the data that you have and the selections that you choose. So I'm just going to give a brief run through of it. It has 4 sections: the file input output section, the mail settings section, the mail.dat section, and the report section. And basically the file input output section is where you want to identify for us your input and where it's located. Once you do that, you can also identify for us where you would like the output, and that means once it's gone through the pre-sort and you choose to append the pre-sort information to the end or not, you choose where you would like that information to be placed, and this is where you would tell us that is the case. So the next section is the mail settings section, and the mail settings sections, it has several different panels, and I don't mean to be flipping through these, but I wanted to start from the very beginning of the actual section. But this is where you identify what type of mail you're going to be mailing. Is it going to be first class? Is it going to be periodical, USPS marketing mail? Once you've identified the type of pre-sort that you're going to be running through the software, you also identify for us what type of mail piece it is, if it's a flat, if it's a letter, the type of containers it's going to be in, how you want that mail to go, automated, not automated, and everything is up to the user. We use the little drop downs so that you have that selection and that choice. You tell us the type of carrier route or non-carrier route you would like to go and use during your pre-sort. And you'll notice right here on the bottom, we have selections that you simply turn on or off based on what type of items that you would like to use your mailing. Are you going to be doing non-profit? Are you going to be co-sacking? Is it going to be palletized? Things like that. Once you've identified the type of mailing you're going to be doing, per postal regulations, you also have to identify your piece dimensions, and that's where you add the information in here. We do have templates set up, but you also can do user specific. So you just simply type in your information. you add to this mail piece. Once you do that, it will populate the information within this screen, and it will use that to calculate your pre-sort discount based on your dimensions and where it falls within the postal regulations. The bottom part of this screen is simply where you identify your mailing entry, so you can get your entry discount. You just simply identify for us the city, state, the zip, and if you are doing any special report settings, you would add that information in there. So now that you've identified the preparation and the piece information, we also give you control on how you want your information to be laid within. For example, this happened to be a flat, so you can put your own specific settings based on your SACs. So if your mail shop happens to say, well, we can't take it any higher, the maximum weight can only go above this, we leave that totally up to your control, and your minimum weight and so on. And we do the same thing for the pallets also, or the trays if it happens to be a tray. So we let the user have plenty of control during his pre-sort, as long as he falls within the postal regulations. If you do any drop shipping, this is where you would identify as your drop shipments. So and for those of you that don't know, drop shipment is basically where you truck your mail to a specific entry post office, whether it's an NDC or an SEF or a DDU or an ADC, and you tell us what minimum pieces you would like to qualify for that drop shipment. What it'll do is it'll calculate the pre-sort, and it'll identify the drop ships to those specific locations so that you get that drop ship discount for you doing most of the work and not having to go from the entry post office to the BMC. You're putting it straight to where the actual drop ship is. Next is the IMB section. And the IMB section is where you would identify what type of IMB discount you would like. Whether you want to go basic, full service, which is most of us what we're doing in order to get the IMB discount. You identify your mailer ID. We all have a smart barcode manager which tracks your serial numbers, or if you have your own way of tracking your serial numbers, then you can identify your own starting and beginning serial numbers for the information, the piece, and the containers that it's going to go in. Also, I will take just a quick second to let you know that we also have mail tracking for your software. For your pre-sort. And the mail tracking, if you'll notice towards the bottom of this screen where my cursor is, we have informed visibility turned on. And what that means is we want to use the mail tracking software that we've incorporated. We've partnered within SnailWorks. And this bottom one actually says SnailWorks visibility and reporting. So if you turn these two features on, once you run your pre-sort, you'll notice there's two little steps right here. Once the pre-sort is complete, you click on that, and what it does, it's going to take you to the mail tracking site. And the mail tracking site will provide a user ID and a password. Once you log in, what that will do is show you a list of all of the IDs that you put within the pre-sort that you've chose to do the mail tracking. Now keep in mind, you can turn that feature on or off. So let's say that you're doing mail tracking for whatever specific customer that you're doing. Once you do the mail tracking and you click on the little feet, you log in, then it'll take you to this screen. You'll choose whichever pre-sort that you want to see the mail tracking on. I happen to do this Anchor software demo one. And then it'll show you, this is the screen that you're going to see next. So this screen will show you, this is the scan activity by state for your mail for this particular mailing. It'll show you how many you actually put in there. It'll show you the estimated quantity, the tracking quantity, and then if you'll see this little key right here, it'll show you This many that are in white were 0%, and all the way down to the dark green, which was 90 to 100% of your mail that was scanned. Now, what I did is I did this little demonstration so that you can see it, and I happened to click on one of them so that you can see if you click on one of the states where you had lots of scans, this is the next thing that you're going to see. So it will show you by zip code how many pieces were mailed for the particular zip code, the delivery scans for that particular zip code, the percentage that was scanned, and by day, the amount of scans that went through. So we have lots of information at your fingertip if you choose to do the mail tracking portion. So if you have any questions about that after the demonstration, please feel free to call Anchor. So let me switch back real quick to the pre-sort. So once you've identified that information, there's the mail DAT section. The mail DAT section is where you simply put in the information that's required by the U.S. Postal Service in order to have your information ready to submit to either Postal One, or you can go online if you're a small mailer and submit your mail electronically that way. The information within here is just the required information that the post office requires in order to submit electronically. If you choose to go this method and you need help setting it up, first of all, when you're first going through it, feel free, we will help you through that. Next is the report section, and the report section, this is basically all where you, let me flip to the beginning of this. You tell us, have you NCOA'd your file, which is required for IMB discount? When is your mail dropping? What is the mailing time that is dropping? All this information that's required by the U.S. Postal Service. If you have any CRID information, you would enter it here, but keep in mind, if you've already entered that in the mail dot section, then obviously you don't need to fill it in here. Next is the postage section, and the postage section, this is basically all you're going to give us is permit information. If it's permit or it's stamp or it's meter or it's a government permit, you give us who the mail owner is, who the mailee is, and also the agent or preparer. So you just fill in those 3 sections and that will show up on your postage reports. All the postage reports that are produced by our software are produced in PDF format. And so then once you fill this information out, if you submit the information electronically, then you have the pre-sort reports that get produced via the information that you filled out here. There's the label section, and that's basically for your tags that you're going to be producing during the pre-sort. Those also get produced in PDF format so that they're easily transferred between either mail shop and mailer, or mail shop and whoever you need to pass them on to. And then lastly, we have the report section. The report section is basically, you have the option to submit, to tell us where to place the reports. If not, they'll be placed in the Active Directory, in which you turned around and told us at the very beginning of the job where you would like your information to be placed. Once you do that, then you'll see on here that says postage reports. These are reports that get produced via whatever selection or type of pre-sort that you're going to be running through, but they don't necessarily choose, it's not, what is the correct word? These are simply just to view the reports. The reports, as I said, come in PDF format, so you can go to the directory, or you can simply just unselect and turn on the ones that you want to view, but they're strictly for viewing purposes. So, in a nutshell, this is our pre-sort OS software. This is the one that would run to get you the lowest postal discount based on the amount of data that you provide to us. So, now that I've showed you our pre-sort, I want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. Whoops, flipped over. I want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar, and I hope it was informative. And I we will providing to the attendees a link. We'll send you an email and provide you a link to this video so that in case you want to view it later on, you're able to do it, or a link to our YouTube, which we'll be placing also a copy of the webinar on. Please visit us at www.anchorcomputersoftware.com if there are any questions that we didn't address during the webinar that you might have, and click on support and we can answer those questions for you. Also, if you'll notice, there are other links on here, postalrates.anchorcomputersoftware.com, which you'll be able to see any of the rates once they're finalized by the U.S. Postal Service, and postalpro.usps.com, as well as postalexplorer.usps.com. Thank you, everybody, for attending today's webinar, and have a great afternoon.